Very warm welcome to those who are already here. I'm based in Switzerland, as with all the other European countries. It's quite hot here, and I'm glad you are not at the lake. Potentially, you are here with me. At least some of you. Feel free to put all your questions in the chat, and I will respond. I will try to respond to them at the end of the presentation. So let's get started, even though some of you might not be here yet. So the number on the slide is not the countdown of this webinar. It's actually very early in the morning of the 9th of July. It's 4 a.m. or 1, and something is happening. Nobody asked it to. Nobody was watching. So what's that? You might have heard about OpenAI. You might have heard about the incident, and you have seen that something jumped out of the box. And I want to talk a bit more about it later when we go into the topic. This all happens much faster than we can govern. And I call it the governance gap. For the next 40 minutes, I want to guide through where we are today, how we tackle this as a board member, also from my own experience over the last decades, and what you can do to deal with what we are facing, the jumping out, the agents which are all around us now. Who's asking this question? So that's me. I'm asking the question, how can we keep the human in the room when the machine decides? And how can we make sure that what we do is still in our authority and also in our control? I have around 25 years of experience in global finance. I've been very fortunate. Very early in my career, I started in Hong Kong, and I have been part of a regional management in insurance, and later on in banking, I've been CEO and CFO. And the last 10 years, I've been at AXA, UBS companies, Generali, and I've also been a board member. So very privileged to have all these positions and have all these experiences. But for me, the most important are still people, despite all the technology we see. And you will see why I believe that we still need, or we need to even invest more in the humans. In my view, the future is not about technology, it's about the humans. And to prepare leaders to govern this technology with human judgment is even more important. And my mission is that I want to build an abundant human future where the machine serves the people and not the other way around, which also rightly many people fear. I do love to work with different people. I learn a lot from different people. I've been working with AI and partners on the EU AI Act and what this means for us as C-level executives, as board members. I've been co-authoring papers in Switzerland, in Germany, and also globally. Davos is always a hotspot for me. So if you come to Davos, please join me, contact me, talk to me. Let's exchange our views. Let's learn from each other. And I've been privileged enough to also work on a foresight paper for 2050, which sounds very far away. But we were thinking about what the future of economy, money, prosperity, and how do we find wealth in the future? You know, with my banking background, obviously you could think of defining wealth as in money, but I would define it much different, and you will see why. I've also been contributing to a book which is brilliant. It's called Lumina. We launched it in CERN, where the World Wide Web was developed. And I was on a panel together with the head of innovation from Lego. So from play, really, we can learn a lot how Lego does the innovation. And I had also the opportunity to have an episode with him in my Edge of Tomorrow. What I love about these kind of work is I meet a lot of thought leaders. I meet different people. In Davos, we worked with artists, with scientists, with biologists, with finance people. And I do think that this helps us to shape what we want the future to be. In the Fast Future Blur, a book I contributed to as a thought leader, and also the faculty which is behind it, we are talking about the intersection of the converging technology. And this plays a huge role, as you will see in a second. And everything I show you today is not science fiction, as much as I love it, is what is already real. None of it is a forecast. It's really what I have seen this week and the last 2-3 weeks. So it's not month ago. It's now. It's not the future. It's not the past, and it's already happening. So I take healthcare very seriously, because that's, for me, healthcare is what is changing our entire life. We see already that we have whole treatments to activate our natural killer cells to target cancer cells. That's one of my favorite developments, when we start stopping using chemo and radiotherapy and have real treatments for our clients to activate the immune system. Obviously, it's not working for all cancer, and it's still in the making. The next part I saw is lab-grown human kidney. We know that millions of people are waiting for an organ transplant. Now, with the lab-grown human kidney, it's really very helpful to those people who are waiting for decades, or maybe even, unfortunately, die before the kidney or any other organ comes to play. The third biggest development, which will change our entire life, is the FDA approval for gene therapy for age reversal. So we're no longer talking, even in the longevity space, about extending our health, but we are talking about reversal of aging, which means we could live forever. That sounds very unrealistic, but that has already been proven at mice, and now we are going to have human trials. This is really big and cannot be underestimated. I've done also something myself here in Switzerland. There's a company providing services where you can do an MRI with AI, and that MRI did a digital twin of my brain. So I wanted to see if I have Alzheimer or cancer. Unfortunately, I don't have it. But this shows you also as predictive medicine and what we can do before we even are getting sick if we have those plaques. And this is, on the right side, what AI sees that a human doctor might miss. And statistically, already the detection lifts from 71% to 87%. Fortunately, I don't have cancer or Alzheimer at the moment, and I would love this technology to become available to more people. Unfortunately, it's still very expensive. I did this as part of a collaboration. Some insurance cover this in Switzerland, but this is very specific, and I've seen that in other countries is much, much harder. We are very privileged in Switzerland. When we look at biology and when we talk about aging, for me, this is the biggest change I see. And this is something also which is affecting every part of not only our life, but how we work. So in finance and banking and insurance, where I come from, but also in any other sector. Biology is becoming computable. What I mean with that is AI is like a flywheel. It activates every development. So if you look at multiomics tools like genetic sequences, that was very hard years ago. Now we can do it at much lower cost and faster. So recently, just a couple of days ago, we saw a study where they did a virus. This can be good and can be bad, but I'm not talking about this right now. We also have AI developed drugs much, much faster. We have cures which are much faster. And I have doctors in my family that got shocked when I showed them diagnostic between the studies between what doctors are doing and what AI plus a doctor can do in diagnosis. And this study showed that the diagnosis, which is like so surprising, from ChatGPT was better than from the doctors. So now my doctors in my family obviously argued, yeah, maybe these doctors were not the best doctors, but it just shows you the quality of AI in medical care is also getting much better. And we can use it together with the experience every doctor has. So this flywheel gets faster. I wrote here faster every year, but I would say it gets even faster every week, every day. We will see that in a second. This works like an accelerator of everything which we have seen before. So imagine now that we get much older. You don't even have to imagine. We know already from blue zones that people get over 100. But with all the healthcare we have and everything I've shown you just briefly, we will get statistically in the next 20 years longer. Even if you can't reverse aging completely, we will get older. And that changes everything. That changes also our life in the sense that we now have a social contract where we have 3 stages of our life. So we first go to school, we are educated, we train, we go to university. And then the normal part is that we go to work and we work until we are retired. Retirement is at 65. So assume you get 120 years old. All of this is out of the window and it doesn't work anymore. Plus, we have automation. So the jobs we have today are no longer there. We have humanoid robots who help us, who have an impact on how we work, what we do, what our skills need to be. So the skills we have today are different from the skills we have tomorrow. And that doesn't only mean that we have to use the best tools. It's the opposite, and I will show you that. So the whole market is kind of exploding. So when you look at ARK Invest, I strongly recommend you to read those reports. We can send also the link to you after the webinar. It's ARK Invest Big Ideas 2026. They look at the biotech market, they look at the flywheel I just showed you, and they estimate the market to be 1.2 quadrillion US dollar. That's 1,000 times more. Why I'm showing this number is not because I want you to invest in biotech, is I want you to understand the magnitude of this biological computing and what it means for your life. What we also have to be careful with when we look at what I already mentioned when I did my MRE scan and all the tools I have now to assess myself, and I can afford it, other people can't afford it. So we need to make sure we don't have a two-tier society where one is living longer, other ones cannot afford to be living longer. So we need to make sure, like in cities like Singapore, we already have virtual blue zones, with a big focus on healthcare, that we are inclusive and that we make society using all these abundant resources which we have. We are at an inflection point, which means that we are not talking about biology. We are talking about this big convergence of technology. And a lot of people ask me, why is this happening now? And should I even consider any of this new technology? Because it's like the internet. It's not like the internet. It's the first time in the centuries we are living in that lots of different technologies coming together at the same time. And they are all held by neural networks, what you see here. So it all connects the different technologies we have. And I showed you already multiomics technologies, programmable biology, but think about also adaptive robotics and how we can use this in medical care and how already surgeons are using it. So this is an important aspect, that is technology, and AI in particular is not standalone. AI is completely holding all these pieces together. So if I'm in finance, I have to look at all these different pieces and not only digital wallets, smart contracts, cryptocurrency. I have to also look at the world around me. And that's why I find it so important to collaborate also with scientists, with doctors, with artists, because then only we can understand the impact and drive it. The network strengths of this convergence of technology has been also estimated by ARK Investment to go up 35% in a single year. That means this interdependencies, this convergences, our network, the neural network which connects everything, is getting stronger and has a much, much higher impact than we have ever seen before. We have to look at 2 clocks and 2 developments. Technology moves in weeks, and I would even argue it moves in days and seconds and minutes. So it's faster than we can even comprehend. We talk about lightning speed. the governance we have. So if we think about the boards, like me, we are sitting together in a board every quarter. Maybe there are ad hoc meetings because we have something sudden coming up, but the governance, the regulatory frameworks, our risk frameworks are done for years. And what I'm seeing there is a huge, what I call governance gap. So we have technology taking off, and this slide even underestimates the gap, because what we are seeing is the takeoff. So it is more when we look at OpenAI, OpenClaw, and what happens now, it's more like a straight line, a rocket. So we have a takeoff instead of only exponential. But if you look at this, even that gap is big enough to make us think what are the opportunities, but also what are the risks here. So institutions, regulators work on that straight governance line, and technology is just working on space rocket-like speed. So that's the true challenge we have and how we bridge that challenge. Everything lands now on your desk. So you are the one who needs to take decision despite the governance gap. So you can't have an excuse and say, yeah, the framework is not there. If the technology is there, you have to know how to deal with that. And your whole job as a board member is also changing. So what kind of skills you need? How do you deal with this gap, and how you close it, how you bridge it, and what you can do? So the stage one, which I think is not only on everyone's mind, but which is quite already, I would say, in practice, and hopefully it's not shadow, is transparent, is the assistant. So in my experience, hundreds of papers at UniCredit, also when I was at BlackRock, also now, and you ask the management to come up with, give me executive slides, maximum 7. We also had this at UBS. We only were allowed to have 5 to 7 slides. But still, as a board member, you have fiduciary duties, and you want to understand the whole. So the only way to do that is to have an AI assistant who's trained to do it, who shows you the big flags. So on top of you read the executive part, you ask AI to go through those papers and ask the right questions. So asking the right question becomes your top ability. And from what I have seen, the best people who can ask the right question in boards are the people who not always are the top on AI, but who have this mindset of critical thinking and of curiosity. So you want to know what's behind it, and you don't just accept this very glossy paper and all looks the same. So I recently met a friend of mine, a CEO, when I was on holidays in St. Moritz, and he said, wow, the papers look all the same. The strategy is done. I don't need McKinsey anymore. And the competitive analysis. And I asked him, okay, if everything looks the same, and just imagine the competitor who does the same business as you, he will use another model but comes out with the same. So how do you make sure that your strategy, your competitive advantage is really the value you can generate from the company? And that's where board executives come in and have to step in, because they need to really give their experience and everything they have learned and what they see. So board members like me are usually very deep into the market. You have that network, you exchange. That becomes part of something AI cannot access via the internet. AI is also now scrubbing all the books and reading, and that's great. But the experience, the judgment, that's not something you can delegate. And that's also not a quality you can bring to the board. So stage 2 in your board life is a participant. And now it becomes very interesting because one even fund has a sovereign fund that was in Kazakhstan. Yeah, so now you can say Kazakhstan, very far away, has said, we want a board member who is, I should say, it's AI to help us with the analysis, to help us, to challenge us. So that had obviously a lot of attention, because they also made that technical board member deciding and voting. So huge challenges when you do that, and you need to have the right frameworks. For now, I wouldn't recommend to do it. Um, I think for now the quality is not yet there, and I wouldn't give decision power, in my view, as a board member. What we have also seen is that OpenAI has said, yeah, why not the state gets a stake? Again, this has another huge problem because the state is supposed to regulate you, and at the same time you give the power to vote, to decide, and there is a natural conflict of interest, which we all appreciate as board members. So lots of those governance questions are also around who's participating, who do we have on the board. Stage 3, now it's getting interesting. It's the agent. And I will show you an example in a second. You think the agent may be very far away for boards using an agent themselves. But Lloyd's, one of the top 500 companies in banking, they have added a board bot and an AI agent. Now you can argue it's a bot and agent, but this was an AI agent developed by Board Intelligence. And it was exactly a bit more than assistant. It was confidential information, prepare for meetings. And what we all know, we have human biases, and was helping to avoid these human biases. But what I think is or I believe is very important, is that this agent augments and not replaces. And this is the same, also the people who created it, as Board Intelligence, the CEO, Pippa Beck, said, it augments the human ability to consume information and to form judgment before they walk into the room. So it's your judgment which gets help, but nevertheless, make sure, again, you don't fall into the glossy paper trap and everything looks nice and that's why it's good. And the governance director at Lloyd's Banking Group said, we see real potential for AI to support decisions making in boardroom when it is used carefully and responsibly. And that is really the art of how you use agents. And I'm not sure that all the banks or other board companies have found this magic yet, but I think it's good to start testing, trying with assistant and going through these different stages where you slowly adapt, but also train what you want, what's important to you, so that the board can still exercise the judgment. You can't delegate judgment. That's the most important learning for me, for any board member or executive. The machine can prepare the decision. It cannot own the decision. Judgment and the accountability that rides with it stays human. Remember also, you have a huge fiduciary duty. Even as a doctor, when you use AI, you maybe override the AI decision. I recently discussed it with Dr. Ingrid Vasiliadis in one of my episodes of Edge of Tomorrow, and she said it's very clear. The doctor is responsible. And if the doctor was wrong, he's also responsible. And if the AI was wrong and you follow AI, you are also responsible. So it always stays with us. It always stays with a human. So make sure you exercise your judgment and you don't leave it to AI. Usually, the boards don't need more information. We have so much information, and most of the time it's overwhelming. You need better prepared conversation. And this is, in essence, where I use AI and where AI can help the board to be an assistant, to help with the analytics, to say, okay, this is my critical question because from my experience, I see this is happening. Can you also check this? Show me the red flags, and not only what management sees, maybe what you see, what I see. So you have to use this as an interactive, like a co-worker. Like I usually worked with my team when we were scrolling over the board papers before we submitted to the board as an executive. I said, okay, I want to have each one, and I want to have each opinion of you, what you think about this and this and this topic, and this has to go in, and this is important. So more important than now is you have the humans at the table, you have your team, you have AI agents, but you don't delegate. So what happens when AI is with a human in the room? And we have seen many examples, but I want to show you this very recently, which, I mentioned at the beginning. Let me go back. Here's what it does with no one watching. So make sure that you watch what the agents are doing. What do I mean with that? Nobody asked it to. An OpenAI agent broke free and hacked Hugging Face. This is not something which happened months ago. This happened on the 9th of July. In the middle of the morning, an AI agent just jumped out of the box and went into hacking. And as we know now, Hugging Face is not the only one which was hacked. OpenAI didn't first see it. And it was only a test, but the guardrails were switched off. And that was due not to OpenAI sending an agent just doing whatever he wants. It was due to human error in OpenAI's highly isolated testing environment. It's a good case for everyone to study. And this allowed an AI-powered attack on Hugging Face. And this can happen to anyone, you could assume, because it's all about humans. It's not about AI. If you go a bit deeper, you see this here on the right side, from sandbox to our core in 13 hours. The attack chain was very interesting. You see the green boxes. This is the sandbox from OpenAI. And then when it goes to the orange one and the yellow one, it was jumping out. We all are very familiar with sandboxes. Normally, and in particular in the regulatory environment, you use these sandboxes to have a sandbox. So you have a playground, you can test, you can try, and that's the essence of it. So you don't really want anything getting outside the sandbox. But the agent escaped OpenAI evaluation and also reached the internet. It rooted a third-party code sandbox as a base. It has highly abusive behavior to an internal network, and that's not only to Hugging Face. So from sandbox to our core, that's what Hugging Face did in 13 hours. And Hugging Face found all of a sudden there is an attack, there is a hacking attack. So they alerted and they found out it's OpenAI. OpenAI first didn't really see that. The AI agent took 17,600 actions and only in 13 hours. So what also we can learn from that, it did it very fast. And it went undetected 2.5 days. So no one really noticed until obviously the incident was noticed. And then everyone it's like an explosion, also in regulatory environments when we see that, then everything gets fast. But at the beginning, everything is very quiet. What the agent also did, they had basically, let me go back, they had several agents that worked together, an army of agents. He worked together with other agents. So that's normal. And we have seen that also in business. I've seen that in live environments. You use several agents. And what they did, without any instruction, but AI is smart enough. We have trained it to use swarm intelligence, like the fish or like also humans are doing. So if we don't know something, we ask someone else. If we make a bad experience, we share it. And this has happened live with the different agents. So they shared information, what didn't work, they learned from each other, got better and better in a very short time frame. And they had, even before, when you look at this is like a network. It already started in May. They had a secret message board. What OpenAI did, they closed down the message board. So they thought, okay, it's fine. You can continue. But they didn't check that AI obviously had found another way through swarm intelligence to do another exchange of information and finding ways to jump out of the sandbox. So staff was alert, but did not put the guardrails in place to stop this. So this wasn't really a machine which went wrong. The sandbox wasn't sealed. The guardrails were switched off by a person. The team saw the early warnings and carried on. The machine did exactly what it was told. The humans didn't. So the machine had a task and it just followed straight the task. You always have to think about that the machine will do anything to pursue the goal. So if you don't put real guardrails, and we learn whilst we are doing this, how this works, how to put guardrails is also an art and a science by itself. So Hugging Face CEO was obviously very clear, and every one of us would say the same. AI firms must answer for rug bots. But what that means is also, it's not only AI firms. If you as a bank, it's very clear. If you use bots or you use agents, you are responsible. There is no question. And the board is responsible. The more we have to ask as board members how these agents work. And we have to understand how we control it. So that's the most important. Obviously, we don't want to stop the development, but we have to make sure we put everything in place. And usually we have no precedent cases. We have no regulatory framework we can use. We really have to develop it as a company. This is not a single incident, unfortunately. It happens also in companies, in smaller cases I've seen myself. It's a pattern. So these big guys like OpenAI, this is the CEO of also Anthropic, another case, and this is on the 4th of August. AI just went rogue again. This time it turned to deception. It had tried to influence people, developers, during testing by a UK government-backed research group. So it's very clear we see something coming, which we have to somehow try to control. And right now, even for big tech, it's very hard. So we must be very careful how we do it. It's not surprising. This is only on the 7th of August. Now even OpenAI puts a brake on a new model because it's supposedly too powerful. And we have seen that also with Anthropic and Mythos. So this development is like a rocket, what we have seen. The governance is nowhere where it should be. And models, even model owners like OpenAI, are stopping it because they are concerned about the cyber attack capabilities. And the capabilities are really outrunning the controls faster than we could watch. And the incident highlights really the critical need that we need. We need to have security protocols. We need to have it in a controlled environment. But as you have seen, it was in a sandbox. So how could this jump out of the sandbox? How could this ever happen? And 4 questions that, in my view, when you say 80-20 rule, what can I do that keep you control? Treat every output as a question, not as a conclusion. So we talked about this shiny, glossy papers that you get, and everything looks perfect because it's AI produced. But don't forget to ask the right questions, and you know how to ask the right question because you have the experience. Listen to the colleagues. So more than ever, it's more important that we use our swarm intelligence on the board, and we have a diverse set of people where they come from. One comes from technology, one comes from business, one comes from different. So that we really can ask different questions. Test what you're inclined to accept, not just what you doubt. So make sure, don't forget to test, and don't let other people go over you. Yeah, we have tested everything and it's all fine. Remember always, when you have an intuition, it comes from your experience. And intuition and my experience is very important. You feel there's something not right, but you can't pin it. So this is the moment you have to act. Demand to see how AI shaped the proposal. So you want to see if management comes up with, this is the next big thing, and the proposal. So how AI was involved, you want to understand this. Yeah, this is not saying management shouldn't use AI, but you want to know, where is AI leading, or is management still leading the strategy? Do we have the competitive advantages really worked out? Do we have the strategy in a way that is personal to that company, and it's just not a nice consulting paper that any consultant could have produced? And you should have a certain amount of distrust, but I'm always, I mean, people know me from my executive and board. I'm very, very positive, and I have confidence in big confidence in people. But you need to make sure that when everything looks very obvious and very clean and very shiny, then you know also without AI, you need to ask questions. It doesn't mean there's something behind it, but your task is even bigger. You need to use your judgment. You need to use your curiosity. You need to nurture it. AI surface is also your thinking. So I always see how AI mirrors who you are and what you do. So we have studies from MIT where it says people get dumber. Yeah, people get dumber if you stop thinking. So you need to engage with AI. When people say, yeah, we need to have training in boards how to use AI. Yes, we need to have training in boards how to use AI, what the latest technology is. But it's not about how I can do prompting is anyway out of the window, but how I can do the best prompt. It was a year ago when I did a workshop. We also talked about it. The board started to prompt because some had never done this before. And I said, yes, that's the beginning, but let's look at the bigger picture. You need to understand that AI is not the perfect machine. So people now, or also in my private life, they say, if I ask a question and I want the expertise from friends or family, they say, ask AI. And I'm saying, I'm not asking AI, I'm asking you because I want your experience. So this is really the double check. Accountability cannot be delegated. You are on the hook. So don't forget, anything goes wrong, it's you. So you have to make sure you have done everything you can to challenge, to see, to look, but also work with the management team to work it out. So when in the tests there is this kind of explosion that we have seen before, you work together, you think about what are the guardrails, and these are not always technical. These are also guardrails where you define how much do we want AI to do on this topic. And that's how I developed over the last year, together with other board members, with my experience. I tested the Human Parity Principle, 2 to 1. For every 2 units of AI capability, you need to have 1 unit invested in human judgment, trust, and the nerve to say no, not to cost the control system. So we see that a lot of companies are trying to use AI for efficiency, so they reduce a lot of the headcount, which is not per se wrong, but you need to have the right people at the right spot. So the more you invest in AI, you also need to invest in people. And this is not only in who is the best with the tool. So if we look at some studies, 1 in 3 employees admit sabotaging their company's AI. 41% of them are under 35. So shadow AI, we come to that later, is also another problem. But this is something mind-blowing. How can they sabotage? What is the intention? So you have to understand what is going on when people are using AI and how does it work? So worse, even another study from Harvard Business Review. Executives who leaned on AI grew more confident and forecast worse because they think, okay, I've asked AI, I've asked my magic, I have asked my genie. So I know everything. And this is not a good leader. A leader is someone who is questioning. A leader is someone who is curious, who asks his team, who uses the swarm intelligence we all have when we are working as a leader. 8 to 1 is what firms spend on AI tools versus the people who use them. You think that can't be. It is a statistic. So AI is boosting certainly productivity, but business are missing the payoff. A growing skills gap is holding back results. So you need to reskill. Yes, you need to skill, but you also need to make sure it's not only about AI skills, it's about leadership skills. So what kind of mindset you have when you hire someone. What is the attitude? How do they work with technology, with people? So the people point becomes much higher. Shadow AI is already inside. 2 in 3 organizations are already exposed to AI tools. Nobody approved. Handling real data off the books. I've seen this myself. Then when you are managing something and you have people around you and you don't have the latest tool in the company, and they have their own AI. And that was in particular also, we have seen that publicly stated by Amazon and Microsoft. When ChatGPT came, everyone was putting from those companies data into those AI tools, and obviously all confidential data. Yeah. So this is a huge challenge because people want to show best performance and you don't give them the best tools. So investment in people and AI is even more important. Let's look at some numbers and statistics. 60 to 70% of organizations are exposed to shadow AI, unsanctioned tools touching real data. So we have data risk is the highest, 65%. A lot of people use the data and try to mine it and perform good and show their manager, here, this is a super report I did. There's absolutely no question in my mind that you must use AI for research, analytics, etc. But they must be approved by the company. And unfortunately, a lot of companies are behind, and that also creates this disconnect. So we need to invest in AI, in people, in skills. IP risk is a huge problem. And you see that 87% is a governance gap. So a huge problem, shadow AI. 87% can't even see it. No mature detection, 65% risk exposing personal data, 40% their own IP. The governance gap isn't coming. It's already open and it's here. So it's not only the technology we have, which goes at this exponential rocket speed and governance is like flat. It's also what happens inside the company. What is with leadership? Do they think, okay, I use AI, so I'm the guru for everything? How do they behave? You have to look at what is happening there. So why human parity principle, in my view, is this 2-to-1. I just showed you some of the data I've been working with on top of the board I'm working with as in my advisory capacity. We put everything into the machine, almost nothing into the humans who govern it. So 1 in 3 employees admit sabotaging their company's AI. 41% of them are under 35. Worse, executives who leaned on AI grew more confident and their forecast gets worse. 509% surge in shadow AI in a single year. 8.28 to 1 is the ratio what the market spends on AI tools versus what they spend on humans. I mean, when you see these stats and when you see the data, you think it's not possible. The gap is really not technology. The gap is a human deficit. And that's why I believe, and I've used certain companies, you need to use the human parity principle. Invest in human resilience. We talk about company resilience, but we have to invest in human resilience at the speed you invest in AI. So judgment, top number 1. Can we still decide well without the machine? Trust, are the human network intact? Pipeline, are the tools where judgment is being preserved? Override, can our people reject the AI? Can we survive it? Do we have a killer switch? Most of the companies don't. Purpose, do people know the value only they bring? People think I can't use the AI, I don't have a value. This is wrong. So the 2-to-1 rule says 2 parts capability, 1 part needs to be human. So I've developed, again, with an 80-20% mindset, a scorecard for you, which you can use as a board member or as a leader. And this is circulated by Veblen, is also on my LinkedIn profile. When you see website, I put it also last night, I put it there. Score you 5, your judgment, your trust, your pipeline, your override, your purpose. And this is based on what I center on, the human parity principle. And Monday morning, ask this 5 question. Is attrition in the teams using AI the most? So do you see more people leaving? When did the leader last override AI and were they right? How many AI tools run that IT has never seen? Which roles did we automate before they grew our leaders? Can our best people say what makes them irreplaceable? That's a very important question. If you ask one of the employees, and I always love also as a board member to have lunches, to talk to people, to go to the canteen with them, to get to know them, to also make them feel valuable. And a lot of the time they say, oh, we're using all this AI and I might not have a job. And there is a lot more than that. One more thing before I close and come to all your questions is what happens next. So we have talked about the governance, the technology, AI, and we have talked about the convergence. What we haven't talked about yet is quantum. And quantum is already here. So the quantum is much faster. It's testing millions of answers in parallel. It breaks what today's computers can't. Cryptography, chemistry, materials, logistics, already the big pharma are on it to use quantum for developments, but also all the hackers love quantum. And it's not something which happens tomorrow. We have seen from IBM, from Google, the development again is like a rocket. We are not ready for it, so we need to get ready. Hackers think about harvest now, get all the data, and decrypt it later. So even they are not using quantum directly, they get it. Adversaries are stealing encrypted data today to crack it the day quantum matures. Your long life secrets, financial, health, IP, your brand values are already walking out. Quantum safe encryption takes years to deploy. So the board's quantum question, you also have to ask about that. If you don't have a quantum strategy yet, make sure you get it. I work with boards on different levels, and I obviously pull in experts with my board experience. Asking the right question, not knowing everything about quantum is the most important. Where do we rely on encryption? Quantum will eventually break. What data must stay secret 10 to 15 years from now? Do we have the cryptographic inventory and a credible migration plan? Which vendors are critical to that transition? Who in management owns a CUDA? If you like to go deeper, I have a podcast coming up with someone I deeply admire, Stephen Suarez, and he is not only a senior advisor at McKinsey, but he is the one you go to for quantum. So that will come up. Send me your questions before. We will also discuss them. This is on the 26th of August, LinkedIn Live. It's recorded. If you don't have time, don't worry, you can see it thereafter. So send me the questions you want answers. Argue with me. Have a call with me. How you can ask the right question. I also do one-to-one coaching if you like. So it's very, very important that we develop this mindset of judgment, asking questions, trust, and this can only be done if we invest in humans. So the last human decision, the boards that lead the next era. This is what you have to remember from the 40 minutes. What should never be delegated to a machine? That's a key question. And that's driving the whole governance discussion. Thanks a lot for listening to me. So let me now switch, and the QR code is my LinkedIn profile. You can find me there if you like to. So let's go to hopefully that works. Oh, no, stop sharing. So let me go through the questions. So I see a lot of people, wow, joining from Virginia and from Singapore, Nigeria. Yeah. Thanks a lot for joining from these different places, from Dallas. And I love, Bill, how you phrase this. Humans are the essential components of our business. Yeah, we always say that, but we have to make sure we also live up to that. And if you've seen all my stats, unfortunately, right now, that's not the case. So a lot of work we have to do. So thanks for joining me. A question in terms of AI MRE. Once the doctor saw the AI results, could they correlate it? Yes, that was a good thing. So within 72 hours, I got a whole assessment of my body. So I did the brain MRI and I did also the whole body. And on top, I did the blood test and I did a mama MRI to see if I have signs of breast cancer. And that was one of the first in Switzerland, even. Within 72 hours, I had this full report on my mobile phone. And then I had an appointment with a specialist. So he explained to me, even though obviously I'm relatively familiar, given my family also in terms of what it means and also my own education. I'm diving deep into healthcare. But it was really making a difference to me that the doctor explained the results to me and how he connected the different dots. So the blood test might be standalone and your body scan and your brain might be standalone. But it was very important to see from the blood test, my heart and everything else, what are the challenges I'm facing? And the next step is now, what is the nutrition I need? What is it? How can I improve my health by different food? And that's different for everyone. And I love this where you can do the analysis, you get control over your body. And obviously we have a lot in wearables. We have this ring, and everyone is trying to get to this ecosystem of healthcare. And I think the most important there is your data, your privacy, and how you protect it. You will get access to the recording afterwards. Yes, you will get also the scorecard. It's interactive, and you will get a paper with the questions which I put at the end. So 2 papers that you get. You can contact me on LinkedIn if you have question. If you like to collaborate, work with me, please contact me. I love to see your reaction. How can we implement human-machine teaming and decision knots and guardrails within this process? How can we ensure transparency, explainability, and hence trust in this AI assistant? There's a lot of responsibility on the C-suite. Even accountability is an aspect that must be properly understood. To be honest with you, in my world, where I live in a regulated world, trust is something, first of all, which has to be earned, and trust, we always talk about we trust AI, but we need to see the trust is established between humans. And as you have just seen in the case of OpenAI, it's not about the AI doing something wrong because it just goes like a machine. It just goes, this is my target and I do it. And the means and tools I have, I just use everything I have. I use swarm intelligence. I go out of my sandbox. The humans who put the framework, who put the guardrails, are how I establish the trust. So I want to look at the decision knots. I want to look at the guardrails, and I want to look how this works. And I want to have little test scenarios by myself in quotes, with the board. I think it's also a more active role you have now as a board. You don't override any C-level executive, but you work together because you have to make sure your board understands. I have seen that a lot of time when I did years of innovative new stuff. We did a POC, we did a proof of concept. We worked with external. We worked also with ethnological researchers, which is different because they find out what humans really want and how humans really are and what drives them. So you have to understand much more of that to establish trust. So if you are in doubt, then I would say don't trust the same like you do with humans, and build your trust on what humans do. And that's why I'm convinced, and I've seen that many, many times. You have seen that now in the data. You need to invest in humans. You need to have this human parity. So if you invest in AI, why don't you invest in humans at the same time at a certain rate? A question, do we have to trust third-party suppliers of AI for board system, or should we train our own system? This is a very, very good question. And here in Switzerland, I'm working, for example, with a company who gives the IT platform to SMEs. Not every company can afford to have this big models, and it's not suitable for, and you don't know which use case to use it for. So they're providing a platform. They're using different models, and they're making this very easy for the SMEs because they also host all the data in Switzerland. That's another, at least for the Swiss companies, a big question. How do we make sure we host those? So I wouldn't say it's either or. I would say it really, really depends on the board. It depends again on how you can make sure we don't, per se, I don't trust a third party supplier. I don't trust an own build system. I have an equal relationship to this because I want to test it. I want to know. I want to have transparency. I want to see the guardrails which humans put in place. This is how I establish my trust over time, and it needs to be earned. Same as we have seen in every business. Rubit says, my concern is that in far too many cases we have given over to AI. It's so easy to lose focus and allow the various tools to influence us. We as humans are neurologically wired to look for the easiest path. We need to train ourselves to challenge, not to accept, which is easier than done. Judgment, accountability, and decision-making are uniquely human, must be retained and maintained. I couldn't agree more. I think the challenge we have, in particular in companies and boards, is we push very hard, shareholders push very hard that the company meets certain targets. To meet those targets is quite easy to use AI for some of the efficiency, for some of the automation, but we don't give enough time to reflect, to ask the question. And that's the first step, which you should ask yourself. Do I push or do I give enough time? Also, as an executive, am I be pushed too hard? So my experience, every board who has seen the latest, what is happening in AI, and I showed you only, this was made for today. You have seen I've used the latest. I always use the latest, so people don't think, oh, this is months ago now, it's much different. It's very important for boards to understand what is happening now in my industry and what is happening in this big convergence, and how does it impact me as an executive, as a board member, but also the company. And once you see that, you really think, oh my God, I need to take a deep breath. I need to sit back, and I need time. I need time to ask the right question, to challenge and to sit back. And this is the kind of presentation or keynotes or you need to bring to your boards. You need to make them understand. If you don't share these experiences, it's very hard because everyone is like, okay, meet your KPIs. As long as you meet them and there is no problem all of a sudden coming up, everyone is very happy. EU legislation related to the necessity to acknowledge the use of AI tools when publishing material of any nature. That's a very good question. And we have the IP rights. We have also a lot. I can't answer this just in one sentence. So I think when you look at this, you need to know what is your use case. So even as you might have seen, I publish a lot every day on LinkedIn. So even I need to think about if I use AI. So everything is curated by me. I do the research myself, but with AI, I do deep dives myself. I use it also for my clients. Is that something which is mine, in particular when it's IP rights? How do I use it and make sure that people understand? I see more and more, even if I talk about something which is real and which is happening, I get this comments of, this is AI slope. And I'm like, where is this coming from? So people are getting more distrusting. So I usually put also the research I have, the science papers I have reviewed and read into my posts now, in particular on the medical side, because people think it's not real. And I don't blame them because I also feel like, what can I trust? Who can I trust? So there is this feeling of fear and mistrust, and we need to get over this and say, okay, let's do the deep dive. Let's do our work. Let's do our homework. Let's take the time. Let's take this deep breath and go deeper and find it. If AI provides data, how does the board evaluate it? What is the control, Craig? Yeah, great question. Usually, AI doesn't provide data on its own. Data always has a source. So AI is very bad when you have bad data, and in particular in legacy systems, which are plenty of in the boards which I've been working with or I do myself. This is not to blame. Legacy is always there and the infrastructure, and you have silos everyone is protecting. You need to clean up the data first. So you need, again, you need to see as a board, you need to see the whole stream. Where's the data coming from? How it has been compiled. So even if you do your own research, I'm sometimes, at the beginning, I used Perplexity a year ago, and I did papers, and I said, give me those sources, give me the links, and I'm going because I'm coming from research. This is how I've been educated. Go through every link, which is painful, but I checked, and some of the links just did go nowhere. Perplexity has been becoming much, much better. And also Grok, as much as we like it or I don't like it, I'm not on Twitter, but I use Grok from time to time because the research is quite good, but Perplexity is still my favorite. So you need to know, where is the data coming from? How is it compiled? Everything you have done before when someone presents something to me. So some of the things you want to do are the same you have always done. And don't forget this because it's AI. Thought provoking. Thank you. Yeah, we are not at the end. We are at the beginning of the next area. Thanks a lot for all the wonderful comments you gave me. And thanks a lot for listening to me for nearly 1 hour. I really love to engage. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. Enjoy wherever you are and wherever you sleep now. Thanks a lot. And hopefully I see you soon. Thank you.